Squirrel Rosenberg podcast coming to you live and direct from the lab on this wonderful, gorgeous Saturday night. I got to tell you, it feels like, you know, the perfect temperature for a Jamaican in October, especially in the U.S. Because right now, I'm usually suited up, getting ready to go apple picking or whatever, but it's T-shirt weather right now. SQR podcast, we're coming to you live and direct from the lab, blasting off with something classic. The music you're hearing is available on our SoundCloud. Stay tuned. You can go pick that up. Squirrel Rosenberg Radio on SoundCloud. And tonight, we're blasting off something classic. You know, it's been a minute since you heard from us, but we're starting off with a full blast tonight. I want to take a moment to thank everybody for tuning into our last show, and also big you up for tuning in tonight. I want to give a big round of applause to everybody that's in the house tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Manny behind the camera. I want to give a big shout out to Liz and Theo for being in the audience. My boy Damien. Big shout out to my boy Cheese being here. Eric holding us behind the scenes on the camera. Manny, and was of course Ellie holding us down on the sound. Thank you so much for being here, ladies and gentlemen. We're in for a classic moment because tonight my guest is not only accomplished, my guest is not only affluent, my guest took the mission to be here tonight. So let me just take this moment to put a big round of applause together for my guy, the Honorable Jeffrey Jones. Thank you so much for being here, my friend.
My pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure.
You know what's so funny is when we took you up the elevator and you walked in, what was your impression?
I was getting ready. Just get ready.
No, but you walked in and that Rick James was playing in the background.
Oh, I started to shake and shimmy. That's
no, I respect, no, because you know what's so funny? It showed that you're a master at what you do. Because by doing that, it made the whole studio just way more comfortable. Got it. As a guest walking in. So I want to salute you for doing that.
Oh, my pleasure. Back at
you. So
thank
you so much for being here on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, SQR podcast. Mm-hmm. And as we get ready to learn and dissect who you are, I have to sound like a broken record and just give you the major salute for taking the time out. I know what your schedule is like. I know how hectic and busy you are, but you said yes to the invite when Manny extended it.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
So as we get ready to walk through the life and the movement that is titled Jeffrey Jones, the Honorable Jeffrey Jones. And I got to say this, you're the first honorable guest that we've had on the show. So thank you for breaking that barrier.
I feel so. I feel so.
You should, because you know this is the podcast that could and would and will. You know, so we're going to be making some moves out there. So as I get ready to jump into your story, I'm so fascinated, and you know, so funny. Let me take this moment to give a big shout out to the Paterson Police Department. I can always count on those ad-libs. The minute I open the mic, there's a fire truck going by, or you know, it's so predictable. Yeah. However,
got it.
The Honorable Jeffrey Jones, sitting here, I am fascinated about your story. I want to know, what was the family makeup like? Where you guys are from, the journey you took, the wins, the falls that have now driven you to make the impact you're making, and the things you've experienced. Here in our world. So let's dissect that and get microscopic here on Squirrel Rosenberg podcast, SQR Radio. Let me ask this. Your parents, are they originally from the U.S.?
They are the sons and daughters of Southerners, Phoenix City, Alabama.
Wow.
And they, mom and dad, my father's deceased. He unfortunately passed away in 1996 at the age of 60.
Wow. My condolences.
We've learned to cherish his memory and his expressions and his focus, and we understood from our conversations when he was amongst us that they didn't leave Alabama to come to New Jersey because this was the promised land. They left to escape the hardships of Alabama.
Wow. What's so funny is when you mentioned that there were parents of Southerners, I wanted to hear where in the South.
Phoenix City, Alabama. Right in the heart of racism and right in the heart of the civil rights movement. And had they not left, excuse me, there's a more than 60-70% chance that my father or my uncles, because his 6 brothers and sister all had to leave, may have found the bad end of the situation. It's just the way it was at the time.
let's slow this down because we tend to not understand the shoulders we stand on.
Right.
You know, when you were growing up, were there stories that were shared about some of the experiences?
Oh, absolutely. So let me just try to capture this picture. In the South, we may see them as movies, but the hardships that many of the folk who lived in the South, where you knew what side of the street you would walk on, you would not raise your eyes and look at someone out of fear of some kind of retaliation, both to yourself or your family. Cross burnings are real. You knew which stores to go into. You would have an account in that store, and you'd have to step to the side when other folks came in, and you'd be served when they got to you. I mean, this is real stories. This is the real truth of our family's history. And yet, in the same breath and scenario, our family was able to amass land, and we had it. We had land. I can't tell you how we got it, but we had land. And much of the land was also taken by the federal government for highways and roadways, and they would take
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain. And so we still maintain, the family does, not Jeff Jones and him, but the family. Many of my relatives still live in those parts of the land that we owned. And since then, we have folks, family in as far north as Buffalo. We have a lot of folks in the Cincinnati, Cleveland, Ohio area. We have a lot of family in North Carolina and Georgia, and other parts which I may not know. Right?
Let me slow this right down, and I'm fascinated by, you grew up in the Alabama.
Well, I grew up in Paterson, born and bred here, but every summer our trek was to ensure that we understood and that we didn't break the lineage. We packed up in the cars, and my uncles and their kids, we would ride down the South in a caravan for safety. Now, just to make sure it's clear, my father would not pack us up. Mom would sit on the passenger side with a box, and then it would be sandwiches and soda, chips, and whatever the case is. And we sat, the 4 kids. One would sit in the hump in the middle of the Impala.
Yeah.
The 3 of us would sit in the back with a blanket. And each of the 7 or 8 cars, plus we had cousins who would drive down. And we'd drive from New Jersey, and I think it was 695, because we couldn't go on the normal beltway.
Why not?
Well, if you went to certain states like Virginia, Maryland, they would pull you over. They would pull you over just because of the color of your skin.
They're doing that now.
They were doing it. It was a lot worse then. And if they wanted to impound your car or do whatever they wanted to, they would do it. So that was our story. That was the life we lived. Dad got arrested. My uncles got arrested. We sat in the cars while Mom and aunties would go and bail them out. And then we made our way down to Bama. We'd get there, we'd hug, we'd see cousins. We did the picnic thing. We saw the despair, because there was despair. We would understand where we came from. One of the classics about Phoenix City, Alabama is red clay dirt. You go down with a brand new pair of sneakers and then coming back red.
Yeah.
But that was the story. That red clay dirt was used to make the red clay bricks.
Was there an experience during that whole journey? Is there one thing that stood out to you during that time? By the way, how old were you at that age?
Oh, we were, well, from birth. We would travel, from the time we were born, so that my grandparents... Every summer? My grandparents would not be denied the opportunity to see their grands growing. And we would also have to go, because my mom's mom lived in a brick house, because my grandfather on my mother's side was a master carpenter. He helped build the State House in Alabama.
Okay, wow.
My father's mother and father, they had this home. It was, it wasn't as stately as grandma's house, but it was the home. Big king-size bed, stood about maybe 3 or 4 feet off the floor. 4 of us would sleep in that bed. Grandma would make cakes and pies and chicken and whatever else.
And how would she be so, and I hate to use this word, but how would she be so affluent and be able to afford the stately home and that type of lifestyle? What did she do?
Well, my maternal grandmother worked at it's a military base down there, but my grandfather was, as I said, he was a master carpenter. So, you know, as society is, there's the haves and have-nots, and our family scenario, we had both conditions, but paternal grandmother never suffered because she had 6 boys and a girl, and they would always send money.
Oh,
And
okay.
of course, every year, I'm just telling some of the story, they would sell off trees, and the trees on the land were worth money.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So we weren't, well, we were poor and didn't know it, but compared to others, we were not poor.
Right. And you know, so funny, and thank you so much for taking me on this ride, because as we tend to grow and understand, you know, where people and the different circumstances they come from, we tend to forget some of the stuff we discussed. And once again, big shout out to the Paterson PD. You guys are so reliable. Anyway, we're gonna take a quick break. We're going to come back with the Honorable Jeffrey Jones, jump into and dissect a little bit more about the dynamics that have made him who he is right now. SQR Podcast, the Honorable Jeffrey Jones. We'll be back after these messages. 1. Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast coming to you live and direct as we kick back and just understand and really appreciate where you're coming from. And microscopically, you know, I tend to love, you know, hearing all the ingredients that go into that gumbo to make who we are, and the experiences. One of the things I'm fascinated by is your knowledge and awareness of the circumstances that your grandparents, your parents were subjected to, and the fact that you guys risked. Why would you even go back south if you know it's going to be that much of, it's like the seal jumping off Seal Island to go swim out for fish, knowing that the great whites, and what an analogy, right? The great whites are there to just, you know.
The best way I can describe it, my mother-in-law, who's from Trinidad, sought to bring opportunity to her kids, 5 boys and a girl, my wife. And they stayed in Trinidad while she came to make a life for them. You can't answer the question as to why. She just had in her spirit that where she was, the opportunities may or may not be there. So she sought. In our scenario, our case, it had to be that my father and his brothers realized and recognized through their birth all the way up that they were maybe a gunshot away, a lynching away, a scenario away. And we needed not to be living in New Jersey in the Northeast believing that we've reached some kind of promised land. We needed to be aware that sacrifice, commitment, all that good stuff is a part of it. Now, those weren't the words he used. He would say, my dad would say, and that's the way I raised you.
Squirrel Rosenberg Podcast. When you say something profound on this show, we call it dropping a jewel.
Okay.
Your father or your grandfather just dropped a jewel right now. Say that. What would he say?
Dad would always say it was his way of, he had a 3rd grade education. He used to work in the fields. So the highest education he attained was 3rd grade. Mom was able to acquire her associate's degree when she moved up here after. But Dad had to work, as did my uncles. And so
his statement was,
Well, my assumption is when you don't have the ability to communicate as you would like to, we all were told to go to college and do that stuff. You have to have the ability to pierce the psyche. And so his point was, and that's the way I raised you. So that you can have an excuse in life, but he's going to tell you, but I raised you that way. So there's no failure. There's no headiness about what you think you've accomplished. I raised you that way.
What's your father's name?
Paris Jones.
Let's give a big shout out to Paris Jones. R.I.P. I know he's not here with us right now.
I mean, PJ is his name.
PJ.
That's what they call him, PJ.
Wow.
Right.
Because it's fascinating to hear the impact. Because my father did say a couple of things to me. One of the things he said to me, don't think. Because every time you think, you're wrong, Well, I thought, don't think, but I and what's so funny, when he said that, I know he wasn't planning on making such a delible mark on my life,
right.
But your father did the same. So I want to give a big shout out to that, because in our society, we don't hear fathers making those impacts.
And to your dad too, shout out.
Let's just toast these Heinekens.
That's right.
This moment to the dads.
That's right. First teachers.
First teachers.
Another
jewel being dropped on the Squirrel Rosenberg podcast. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So so you have mom and dad, brothers and sisters?
Yes. There are 3 boys, 1 girl. Sister's the eldest. My brother, who just unfortunately experienced a stroke a year and a half ago. He's 1 year older than I am, and then myself, and then my youngest brother.
Wow.
Right.
And what was that dynamic like?
Well,
because I'm curious to why are you doing what you're doing? That's what I'm going to get to.
I got it.
But
I hear where you're going.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and this is just from a then young man's perspective of being what we call the knee baby. So in the South, they called it. My sister was the eldest, then my brother, and I'm the knee baby, and then my baby brother was the baby. So that's the thing. So I'm the knee baby.
The knee baby.
I was the knee baby, and he was Gary, my oldest brother. He was very much dad's stand-in, whether he wanted to be or not, and that was all of my cousins. The oldest son is the stand-in.
Okay.
And his job was to keep us out of trouble. His job was to co-rear us while daddy made the living. And so he obviously, much of his childhood being the eldest and the sort of stand-in, he didn't have much of one. He had the best he had. He always got what he needed, but he always had responsibility for me and my baby brother. And so you begin to look at him somewhat fatherly.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it's difficult when you look at him brotherly, because you're gonna tell me what to do, but that was his job.
Yeah.
So he was the and is that fellow who would say, Jeff. He introduced me to dice, poker.
That's what he's supposed to do.
Oh, he introduced me to it. He introduced me to style and fashion in terms of pro-ked.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Like, was he the dictatorship type of guy, or was he, the relatable type of leader?
I couldn't call him anything but my brother. He was all that stuff that many other folks that I went to school with, grew up with. They said they had a brother, but I knew what a brother was. I couldn't explain it.
Wow.
Shared, supported, encouraged, and so if dad was working, and my dad used to play baseball, but when dad was working and unable to get to us, my brother was that guy.
Wow.
And,
wow.
But
it's so fascinating to hear, you give your brother the accolades that we don't tend to do. And why don't we put a name to that?
That's Gary Jones. That's my big brother.
Big shout out to Gary Jones.
Yeah.
What's so funny is as you navigated those years of growing up, what was your middle school transition into high school like? Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. This is when it gets weird.
What do you mean?
Well, I was, according to my mom, I had this propensity for science and technology stuff. I wanted the chemistry sets, the microscope sets. I wanted all of the tools. I was the fix-it. I'd fix the wash machine.
Do you know why that? No, that you can take a look back. No,
well, I can. I got my grandfather's gene. The carpenter guy, I got his gene.
Okay.
I got that ability to fix things. I can fix most anything, or at least understand how it works. And so school was easy. It was not really challenging. And I was an honor student, at least that's what they said. And I say this to say, and I say it with the sort of speculation and somewhat concern, is that when I was ready to go to college, I was ill-prepared.
How?
Well, I graduated the top 10% of my class.
Where did you go to high school?
Well, I started at Tech, Passaic County Tech.
Oh, big shout out to PCTI. My daughter went to PCTI. Big shout out to E. We went to, love PCTI.
I was looking for that adventure because I was academically, at least based on what the rumors were, you're the one. You're going to be a lawyer, whatever the case is. And so the attention to the details that should have been applied, it was assumed I had a golden pathway. But of course, when you go to college don't care about what they said. They say, read that psychology exam, that test, that booklet, prepare, so forth and so on. If you don't have great study skills, and that's where urban education sometimes can be misleading, we quickly label a student or students as being articulate and smart, and we say that they're honors. And yet when they get into the real challenges and the rigors of education, they can be ill-prepared. And then it becomes a struggle. And then I'm assuming that many of our young people fail to continue through the process because they find that I'm not ready, I'm not able. We don't know how to seek support academically. We don't know about counseling. Our parents really couldn't help us. They were like, go to college, and that was the extent of the conversation.
True.
So that was my challenge. But
how did you overcome it?
I did the best, dumbest thing one could do. I joined the Marine Corps. I joined the Marine Corps. The first day in boot camp, they started screaming and yelling. I said, I made a mistake.
Squirrel Rosenberg podcast, the Honorable Jeffrey Jones. We're going to take a quick break, come back, jumping to that whole aspect of the Marine Corps. But what a step. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back after these messages. Squirrel Rosenberg podcast coming to you live and direct as I sit here with the Honorable Jeffrey Jones. Thank you so much for being here again, my friend.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate your complete openness with regards to, everything that you've experienced that's have pushed you to where you are right now. And I can't wait to get to where we are and what you're about to do. But as we walk along this journey, I'm fascinated by your transition into the Marine Corps, considering the challenges you were having, and because that would be the last thing you would do.
No, not really. Not really.
What age was this?
This was 18. What's the backdrop of the story is that I grew up in a household where my father was a fan of baseball and Clint Eastwood movies, westerns, and Army movies. So if you think about...
Which team were you guys which team was he repping at the time?
He just liked baseball. It didn't matter. He just loved baseball. He used to play baseball for both his employer, and they used to play pickup baseball.
Okay.
So he was just into it. And remember, baseball was one of the few sports that people of color could play. And if you had some talent, the best you could do is just display it there.
True.
Pros was not part of our conversation then. So, I grew up watching the John Wayne movies, the hero syndrome. I mean, I became victim of all of that. I wanted to do something, and I was at a crossroads where I had been let down in my life. That I'd heard that how good I was, how able I was, both in the church, the community. But when I needed to matter the most, I had difficulty with the study habits and all that kind of stuff. So when I thought about it, and part of my psyche tells me that you can make it in the Marine Corps, you tough. Mm-hmm. You can do it. Listen, I'm not a big guy. This has been the size I've been most of my life.
Let me ask you this. Something must have triggered to stimulate the Marine Corps. What do you remember what it was? Was it a commercial late night? Was
No.
it something you heard? Was it somebody you knew?
No, the best. There's no distinction. The best. The Marine Corps now, outside of Navy SEALs, I don't mess with them guys. Outside of the Navy SEALs, Marine Corps is the best. And it's true. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. So mental toughness, physical dexterity, the ability under the most extreme conditions, persevere. I had something to prove. I had something to prove. And yet, when I wound up in Paris Island that morning, my world got shook.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Oh my God. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. You decide to join the Marine Corps.
Right.
You're getting dropped off on your first day.
Right. Well, I did tell Dad and Mom, out of courtesy and respect, I told them that me in college ain't working. And I told them I'd join the Marine Corps. Now, I ain't talked to them before I joined. I joined
and then
I let him know.
Oh my God!
But
okay.
he was okay. He was okay with it.
Can I slow this down?
Sure.
Can I slow this down?
Mm-hmm.
What day was this?
Oh, I don't remember the day. I left for the Marine Corps September 5th, 1977. That's the day I left and became, Uncle Sam's misguided child.
Okay, let's go back from there. When you tell Mom and Dad.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I sat him in the living room. I have something to tell you. Now, what I should say is their expectation that Jeff, that son, that kid who does all this stuff, he's going to graduate from college and all this. I was sort of the hope. I get it. My sister was already attending Elmira State College.
Okay.
My brother was down North Carolina A&T.
They're making moves, so you got to move.
Right.
Okay.
But my opportunities were limited now because financially we could not afford 3 kids out of state. So I wound up going to Ramapo.
Okay.
And
big shout out to Ramapo College
for business administration. And of course, who thought that you'd have to take a psychology class when you go business administration? But that was the first class. Poor study skills, and I share this with young people all the time when I talk to them, that you can find your way. That's really what my story is.
About that experience.
Personal investment in myself. When I was in the Marine Corps, my buddies would go out and party, and I'm in my bunk with a flashlight studying. We're in the field doing maneuvers and operations. I'm studying. The day I got to Paris Island, we were on the bus. We flew in, we got on the bus, and there's these yellow footprints. And you're in a sleep, 2 o'clock in the morning, dazed, not sure what's coming. I mean, it's still glamorous. And then the drill instructor gets on the bus, and all you hear is, "Get up, you maggots!" And he just screams, and your world just gets shaken.
It's really like the Full Metal Jacket movie?
It's yeah. Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, we were the last platoon that they could do physical, what's the word I'd call? Punishment. Yeah. They could punch you. They could do what they wanted. We were the last unit that they could do that to.
Oh my God.
And just before we had arrived, they had marched a platoon of Marines into the beach. A couple of them drowned, is what the story goes. But and so Congress enacted laws that said that they can't do that. That's but I did stuff. I had to walk down flights of stairs on my elbows and my knees. We had to run in the hottest of sun. We had to do push-ups until our arms swelled up. I mean, you had to do it. You had to fight. I had to fight a guy who was, he was a natural lumberjack from North Carolina. And I was a New Jersey boy with attitude and swagger, I guess. And it was important that they break my spirit, because that's what they do. They got to break you from civilian world and indoctrinate you into the military, which means you take the orders and you run, you charge that hill. And I was not that guy. I mean, I had a little like, yo, listen, I have self-respect for myself. My daddy told me, you touch me, I'm gonna knock you. That was in my spirit. So when they were, I guess I didn't break fast enough. We were in this segment, because you go through 12 weeks. And it's called hand-to-hand combat and pugil sticks. And it's a staff. It's got a padded end here, and the red pad on the top represents a bayonet. And so he has the pugil sticks, and you've got these mitts. And it's almost like a boxer's gloves. He's padding.
Right.
So drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Lawrence, an African-American, did not like me. And I ain't like him. And it was clear. And I was belligerent, but to the point, but not over the edge, because I understood.
From your perspective, though?
Oh, no, because if I was anything other, he would have had his way. But I never went beyond the point. Up to it, but never beyond it. I'm not saying that I was a genius and figured this out. I just kind of knew that there's certain things you can do. Like you can tell him, F off, sir.
You could always add that right there. Yeah.
That you just shy of belligerence. He didn't like me. He liked another guy. He liked him because he met his sister.
Oh.
And the guy was from New York, Jamaica, Queens. I'll never forget it. It's like yesterday.
There's all the dynamics in the mix.
All this dynamics. And I also was fortunate that I had gone to college. I had a couple of credits under my belt. And I was considered one of those so-called smart guys.
You think you know it all.
Yeah, listen, whatever. And that was my attitude, whatever.
Yeah.
He needed to knock that off my face. Well, I'll tell you what, you touch me, this is what I'm thinking. And my attitude is, you put your hands on me, we'll see. I'm from Jersey, we don't play that.
Okay.
So he's like,
talk about it.
All right, then we'll see.
Yeah.
So I had to do push-ups because he thought about it. I had to do push-ups because he was feeling bad about the day. Push-ups because, he just dogged me. But that's where I learned mental fortitude. That's what I learned about, okay.
Squirrel Rosenberg Radio, SQR podcast, dropping jewels.
Hey, listen.
He made your life difficult, but he made you stronger.
Well, Daddy, PJ, said they can't do anything to you unless you let them.
Bong.
Okay, so maybe I was wrong to think that applied to everybody. But I made the assumption. That means everybody. That includes you too, drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Lawrence. You put your hands on me because, listen, I did figure out you can't just touch me to be touching me. And if you hit me, I'm going to knock you out. It's that simple. Now, this guy is a trained Marine. What was I thinking?
You weren't thinking.
I wasn't. But I'm not going to be your punk.
Yeah.
So now we get to this pugil stick environment. And he was smart. I figured out what he had done. He whispered to this big 6'4", 6'5", maybe 270, big dude, tear him up. And I'm thinking, Lordy, I had a helmet on, I had the big pad to cover the family jewels and all that kind of stuff. And we square off. Everybody's surrounding us, and they're waiting to see Jeff Jones go down. You saw it. They wanted to see me on my back. And shout out to Paterson, because when you're on the block and you got to defend yourself.
Shout out to Paterson. Another jewel being dropped on Squirrel Rosenberg Radio. Go in.
Well, the hood comes out. So, hey, he was big and slow, and I wasn't. So I did that like, stop. He went low, and I can't hide.
Boom. Nice.
I try to take his head off, and of course it's a football helmet that we had.
Yeah.
So I rung his bell, and he's holding his head, and of course the look on drill instructor Staff Sergeant Lawrence's face was like, Oh, it's too late.
Yeah.
I won. That's what happened. I won. And so, listen.
I love how you dissect that story, because based on what you've evolved into and what you've grown into experiencing, that attitude has transcended through all your life. You've went up against some challenges and you've won. And I'm interested to know. You mentioned your grandfather.
Yes.
You mentioned your father. You mentioned this experience.
Right.
And that attitude to be able to conquer, to move through.
Okay.
Do you think it's a combination of all those men in your life?
Well, I've been extremely blessed that the mentors that I've had, my pastor, Reverend Albert P. Rowe, Dr. Albert P. Rowe, my father, a gentleman who, when I was a young man, and I later became a member of that fraternity, Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, they guided me. They would call me stupid sometimes. They would not, why you do that, this and that. But I had, matter of fact, in the Corps, there was a gunnery sergeant, Top Pete. He was all of 4 foot something. And there was another sergeant, Conyard, after I finished boot camp and was assigned to Camp Lejeune. And they treated me like I was the brother and the son. So I've always had that. Of course, their perspective was, you need to shut up sometimes. You need to not be whatever that thing is you do. You need to just go along. And I'd be like, whatever, whatever. When I finally figured it out, that they were there trying to help me, things got better. But I don't know you. I don't know that you ain't gonna do to me what Conyard tried. I don't know you, and I'm here to survive. But once I was able to see that everybody there wasn't trying to hurt me, that there is a brotherhood, and through that brotherhood you can get a lot of things done. I excelled. I became a sergeant in the Marine Corps in 3 years, which was unheard of.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, life was...
I salute you for that accomplishment. That was big.
Hey, it happened. So the men in my life have been, and some still are, men who, I guess the reality is, we all know there's a vacuum of leadership, and there's been one for a long time. And moms are moms, but they can't raise boys to be men by themselves.
Squirrel Rosenberg podcast, another jewel being dropped. It's so profound.
And I don't want to dismiss.
No, we're not. We're not.
I just want to make sure
right.
it's clear.
No,
I don't
you're
want
right.
to dismiss that. I love my mother. If not for her, there's no telling where I would be. But the short time I've had with my father, it was that father-son, the interest that he would play, the encouragement he would do, that knowing that you had a man, you thinking, listen, you say something to me, my father gonna come kick your butt.
Yeah.
You knew you had that.
That back.
Now, mom would go out there with her slippers on, curlers on, and do the same thing.
Yeah. True.
You had dad.
Yeah,
and
true.
my dad
true.
stood 6'3", so he wasn't no little guy
Yeah.
to most people. Plus, he had 5 other brothers who carried guns. So
Okay, all right. Bong. Yeah, so you felt the back right there.
It's like that.
No, I appreciate, everything you've shared in the family dynamics, because I can understand the fight and the grit, especially with the Marine Corps story you shared, that has propelled you to be as effective and experienced and dealt with some of the wins and the losses as you've trekked politically. And as we take this break on Squirrel Rosenberg podcast, we're going to come back and jump into the transition into political life. And the impact you've made and things you've experienced, to make you gotten to where you are right now, especially seeing you with Obama during that 100-year flow that we experienced. So, SQR podcast, the Honorable Jeffrey Jones will be back after these messages.
We were in the paper for 19 straight weeks.
It was a lot of publicity.
And it was designed to undermine my reelection. And it wasn't about anything we had done. It was about me not continuing because there was a different agenda for Paterson, and I wasn't on board with that agenda. Now, I didn't know what it was,